my junior year, when I actually had the eating disorder, no one knew. But when I came back from summer, I was really thin because I lost a bunch of weight. I was probably like 85 pounds at that point as a senior in high school. And so I was obviously really tiny, but I had been working all summer to put weight back on. But when you're that tiny, it takes a lot. And you have to be really diligent about it, because I still wanted to be active, right? I had done all this damage to my body, and I was like, I want to put weight on, but I want to do it the right way. I don't want to eat a bunch of junk food and then not like myself. And then I go back through that cycle. So I really wanted to be intentional. And my mom I'd lived with her that summer, and she had just been cooking for me and just like re-showing me how to eat healthy and what that looks like, and how to do it the right way. Because it was interesting, actually. What had stopped this, which they didn't include there, but my mom and I had a conversation that summer when I was so tiny, and she had said to me, I don't want to lose another daughter.
Oh, whoa.
And because I was so thin, and I was just, you're on a path, and it happens so quick because your body can't function. Your hormones aren't functioning at that point. I was always freezing. My hair was falling out. It's just your body, you're not giving your body nutrients. And so it's like slowly draining life out of you, not only physically, but just emotionally too. I was a shell of a person at that point. And so that kind of woke me up, right? And I was with her all summer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to turn this around because this isn't worth it. And I can't imagine doing that to my parents. So I'd really worked hard all summer, but I was still very thin. And coming back to school, you're in high school, people are mean. And so people were very judgy. And I was constantly counting my calories to make sure I was eating enough, because I had a set thing that would make sure I wouldn't lose any more weight. And so I was gaining weight, but I had to be diligent because, I wasn't that hungry all the time to be eating as much as I needed to. And so I was constantly just keeping up with it. And I remember my two best friends came in to the room one night, and they said that they couldn't watch what I was doing to myself, and I was a danger to myself, and they couldn't be part of it, and they couldn't be my friend anymore. And so my roommate actually moved out and moved in with my other friend. And my entire senior year, they would walk past me in the hallways and not even acknowledge me. And I mean, these people were my best friends. I lived with them. My one friend, I had begged to come to boarding school with me from North Carolina. And it was just like, I wasn't there. I didn't exist. And actually, I got my leadership positions taken away. And because of them, I had to go get weighed every morning. And I was threatened to be kicked out of school if I didn't keep my weight. And I had to talk to a therapist. And somehow people thought I was like mentally unstable. And I was like, look, guys, like, I'm fine. I've been through a lot, but like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm fine. And that was my first encounter actually with therapy. And I hated it. Because I felt, at least who I saw, that she was trying to categorize and diagnose me. And I wasn't interested in that, right? I'm not interested in living in the past. I've already lived there, and I've been living there, which is what got me in this situation. So I want to move forward.
We as Christians, I think a lot of times just react to things like this that are part of culture. And we say, we got to cancel this. We got to boycott. There's a boycott culture that is part of, maybe the conservative side of Christianity. And I don't love that. Right. I don't love that that if you make a joke, or if a comedian, Joe Rogan, if you take Joe Rogan, the people at Spotify who are up in arms about Joe's comedy and him making jokes, that they want to cancel him. They essentially want to cancel him. I don't think that's right.
Right.
Now, it's a little bit different. Like I get in this conversation with myself where I go, well, wait a minute. If somebody's out there making legitimate child pornography, do I think they should be canceled? Yeah, I think they should. I think they should be canceled, thrown in jail, not be able to do business. To me, that's a crime. And it's different. Do I think somebody making adult pornography should be thrown in jail? No, I don't. I don't think it's good and healthy. But I think if it's a consensual thing,
sure,
that shouldn't be a crime, you know? And so, but when it's kids, I think it's different. And there's something that feels, it feels wrong.
Yep.
It feels evil a little bit to me. And so, but I'm not up for canceling Netflix. I'm all up for people using pressure, public persuasion to try to move a brand in a specific way or maybe educate. But I don't think you just go throw the baby out with the bathwater and just cancel Netflix.
Creative people tend to be really good at improv. Like, hey, what do you think about this? I don't know. What about that? And then they draw from these it's cross-training. They draw from these other references. So some might be athletes, and so they're pulling in like athletic metaphor. They had a military background, they're pulling in a military metaphor. They're a literature background, they're pulling in these ancient stories or referencing Shakespeare. Or they might be a movie nut, and there's a Star Wars thing. But they're constantly pulling in these there's this divergence of thought. Now, what tends to be hard for them, again, to catalyze around an identity is most creatives are not rainmakers. They don't know how to make money. So you got to have the other person like, yes, here's the deadline. It has to be done, and we're going to commodify it this way. Because your typical creative is like, it's actually never done. Mm-hmm. There's always another, if it's a live show, it can be like this. If I'm making a track, it could always be like this. I recently read the life work of Leonardo da Vinci. Like, he's the quintessential example of that, right? Also someone who was insatiably curious. But he couldn't, to finish something, half of his great works were never finished because he couldn't finish them. He procrastinated. That's very, very creative. There's no linearity with creatives. It's it's not linear. So which means it's going to feel like there's a lot of wasted time. So if you have a creative child, you're like, oh my gosh, he's been staring at the wall for 20 minutes. Or, like, again, I'll quote Leonardo. He went to somebody, one of his patrons, like, how come this isn't done yet? You ran in here, you did 3 brush strokes, and then you stood there for an hour and you walked out. Mm-hmm. Well, this is not efficient. Creativity is not efficient. And Leonardo looks at him and he says, you have no idea how much work is being done while I'm standing there silent. It's not efficient. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I would just say
it's beautiful.
If you have a creative in your life, they're not going to be really efficient. And that's where the art comes from, right? Yep. And it's why they do, by the way, most creatives desperately need then somebody alongside them. I'll tell you, this isn't a parenting failure on my part, and Tyler fits it. Tyler's unusual. My second son by a minute. Fits this unusual because he's kind of creative and he also is highly organized, but he has ADHD. One of the things we did poorly as parents was he wasn't really diagnosed till after high school. So he was high functioning, did really well in his grades and stuff like that. But I mean, he would get up literally, this is not exaggerating, 5 minutes before the bus would get there, and somehow he'd make it. And his brother had to carry, some of what we had to work through is his brother sometimes carried him because he had a twin brother. And Jordan's an empath, so too much.
Yep.
So there's a story there. But one of the things we did is we often just expected him to fit our normal. And it was not helpful to him. So we've had to come back and go, we actually, hey, if we said this to Tyler, would you pick up that coffee pot, bring it over here, pour me a glass of water, and put it back? He might make it around the table to the coffee pot. After that, it's a crapshoot.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Even as an adult. We're in high school.
Even now, yes. And even now, there's so many things happening in his mind at one time. And if he went over to the coffee shop, he goes over to get your coffee pot and he sees there's like some little like herbal thing there. Yeah. He's like, what is that? Can I smell that? I mean, gone, right? Yep. His mind, part of it is the insatiable curiosity. Like, what is that? Mm-hmm. And we would be like, oh my gosh, he just asked you for a stinking glass of water. Bring it over here. And he's full of wonder. It's actually quite childlike and beautiful. And I actually, in my core, deepest place, I want to be like him. Mm-hmm. But my efficiency and I want to make sure I'm doing the job Kent wants for me. Andrew's over there, and I'm kind of thirsty. And all that would suddenly trump the thing that I actually hold valuable more than any other thing is that A, I would like to be like my son and have that kind of curiosity and wonder. Mm-hmm. And B, this is my child being really present. And I shut him down.
Okay, yes.
Because my efficiency or approval for the people in the room was more important.